All right, so are you ready for this? You've sent in quite a collection of notes and lists and excerpts all about advanced English idioms.
Wow.
It's really impressive. And it looks like you're trying to level up your conversational fluency, and I am totally here for it. And lucky for us, we've got an expert here who can unpack not just what these idioms mean, but also like where they come from and how to use them, like a pro.
I think it's so fascinating to see so many idioms that go beyond just the basic ones that everyone knows.
Right.
You've chosen phrases that are really expressive and that can add a whole new dimension to your communication.
Exactly. And you know what always gets me about idioms? It's like they're like these little time capsules.
Right.
You know, they give us a glimpse into how people thought and spoke in the past. Like to burn the candle at both ends. Who knew there was so much history packed into that phrase?
Right. That one takes us all the way back to when candles were the main source of light.
Wow.
So, burning a candle at both ends meant you were really pushing your limits, working late into the night, rising early. It's really fascinating how that image has stayed with us.
Right.
Even though we don't use candles in the same way anymore.
I know, right. It's not just a saying, it's like a whole story.
Exactly.
And speaking of stories, we've got a whole section here about morning and productivity idioms. And I got to say, some of them are a little too relatable, if you know what I mean.
Well, it makes sense, though, doesn't it? Because, work and productivity are such big parts of our lives.
Oh, for sure.
That it's only natural that these things would find their way into our language.
Right.
And these idioms often use very vivid imagery to capture those feelings of hustle and pressure.
For sure. Like, hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
I swear that's me every Monday morning. It's like you're trying to catch up before you've even had your coffee.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it? You can practically feel the momentum and the urgency in that phrase.
Right.
And then there's keep your nose to the grindstone.
Yes.
That one really evokes a sense of relentless effort, almost like you're physically grinding away at a task.
Okay, but isn't keep your nose to the grindstone sometimes seen as kind of a negative thing? Like mindlessly working without questioning things.
That's a great point. It definitely can have that connotation, especially in today's world where we really value, creativity and critical thinking.
Right.
The idiom itself might come from the image of sharpening tools on a grindstone.
Oh, okay.
Which requires a lot of focus and repetitive motion. So it does reflect a certain work ethic, but maybe not always the most innovative one.
Interesting. So it's like the idiom itself has evolved along with our changing attitudes toward work.
Exactly.
But sometimes you just need that reminder to buckle down and get things done, right?
Totally.
And speaking of perspective shifts, there's a blessing in disguise.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds us that things aren't always what they seem.
Absolutely. It's about finding the silver lining, recognizing that setbacks can sometimes lead to unexpected opportunities.
Right.
It encourages a more optimistic outlook even when we are faced with challenges.
So true. Okay, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
Work idioms can be a bit tricky.
I agree.
You got to use them carefully depending on who you're talking to and what you're trying to say.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Some of these idioms, especially those used in business contexts, require a certain level of awareness and finesse.
For sure. Like playing devil's advocate.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that one backfire spectacularly when used in the wrong way.
Oh, definitely. It's all about tone and intent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate can be a powerful tool for stimulating discussion and challenging assumptions. Yeah.
But if you're not careful, it can come across as argumentative or even disrespectful.
Exactly. So how do you use it effectively without, sound like a jerk?
First, it's crucial to establish a rapport with the person that you're speaking with.
Okay.
Make it very clear that your intention is to explore different perspectives, not to attack their ideas.
Okay.
You might even preface it with something like, just to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Right.
Or you could say, let me challenge that assumption.
Right.
Something like that.
That makes sense. It's like setting the stage for a constructive debate rather than a personal attack.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about winning an argument.
Right.
It's about broadening perspectives and potentially uncovering new insights.
Right.
But sometimes there are situations where being direct is the best approach.
For sure.
Like, addressing the elephant in the room.
Oh, I love that one. It's so evocative. Like you can practically feel the tension in the air. It's a powerful way to acknowledge an unspoken issue or problem that everyone is aware of but hesitant to address directly.
Yeah.
It can be uncomfortable, but also incredibly liberating to finally bring it out into the open.
Right.
And it can certainly be more effective than beating around the bush.
Okay, but can we talk about the fun idioms for a second?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that just make you smile when you hear them?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
There's a certain playfulness to some idioms, especially those related to social situations and food.
Right. Like, bite off more than you can chew. It's such a vivid image. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we've all been there at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Like that time I tried to bake a 5-tier cake for my friend's birthday.
Oh, no.
Let's just say it didn't end well.
That's a perfect example. It's about taking on more than you can handle.
Right.
Whether it's a project or a commitment or even a plate of food.
For sure. And it's interesting how food imagery is often used to express complex emotions or experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Food for thought. Right.
Exactly.
But you're totally right.
Yeah.
Like spill the beans. It's such a lighthearted way to talk about revealing a secret.
Right.
Even if the secret itself might be serious.
Exactly. It takes something potentially awkward or tense and frames it in a more playful way.
Yeah.
And you know, not my cup of tea.
Oh, yeah?
It's a gentle way to express disinterest without being harsh or judgmental.
Right.
It allows you to politely decline something without offending the other person.
Right. It's like saying, hey, I respect your thing, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Everyone has their own preferences. But speaking of things we'd rather avoid.
Uh-oh.
Can we talk about crying over spilled milk for a second?
Okay.
I feel like that's something we're all guilty of sometimes, even though we know it's not helpful.
Oh, absolutely. It's a reminder that dwelling on the past, especially on things we can't change, is rarely productive. It's about accepting what is learning from our mistakes and moving on.
You know, that actually leads perfectly into the next section.
Which is, don't keep me in suspense.
Emotions and reactions.
Okay.
This is where idioms get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because they allow us to express those tricky feelings that are hard to put into words.
Absolutely. Idioms give us a shared vocabulary for navigating complex emotional terrain.
Yeah.
It's like they provide a shorthand for experiences we all understand.
Like hit the nail on the head, for example.
Oh, yeah.
It perfectly captures that feeling of getting something exactly right.
Yes.
Whether it's an idea or an explanation or even a joke.
And a hard pill to swallow.
Ooh, yeah.
That one evokes a sense of resistance, of something being difficult to accept, even if we know it's true.
Right.
It's like you can almost feel that lump in your throat as you're trying to force it down.
It's such a visceral image, isn't it? And then there's cold feet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't experienced those pre-event jitters at some point in their lives?
It's a universal feeling of hesitation or anxiety, usually before a big decision or event.
Yeah.
And the idiom perfectly captures that sense of wanting to back out, even though you've already committed.
But then you have idioms like keep your chin up.
Yes.
That are all about resilience and staying positive even when things are tough.
That one speaks to a cultural value, I think. This idea of facing adversity with courage and determination, of not letting setbacks define you. It's about finding the strength to keep going even when it feels difficult.
And let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best advice you can give.
It's about choosing your battles, knowing when to let go of past grievances or conflicts that are no longer serving you.
Right.
It's recognizing that sometimes stirring things up will only make the situation worse.
You know, I'm sensing a theme here.
Oh, tell me more.
A lot of these idioms seem to be about taking action.
Okay.
Making decisions and figuring out how to move forward.
You're right. That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Our next batch of idioms is all about agency and how we navigate the choices we face in life. They offer a glimpse into how we approach challenges, make decisions, and ultimately shape our own destinies.
Okay, so let's talk about throwing in the towel.
Okay.
That's a pretty powerful image, right?
Yeah.
Like admitting defeat, but also having the strength to walk away.
Exactly. It's recognizing when a situation is no longer worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And having the courage to move on. It's not always easy,
right,
but sometimes it's the most sensible choice.
Right. And then there's the ball is in your court.
Oh, yeah.
I use that one all the time, especially at work.
Yeah.
It's a great way to hand off responsibility without being, bossy about it.
It's a subtle way to shift the onus onto the other person, making it clear that it's their turn to act.
Right.
It's often used in negotiations or collaborative projects where clear communication about roles and expectations is really crucial.
So it's all about setting boundaries and being clear about who's doing what.
Exactly.
I like that. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow, right?
Yeah, right.
That's where play it by ear comes in handy.
Absolutely. It's a flexible approach.
Yeah.
Open to improvisation and serendipity. It can be very liberating, especially in situations where you don't have all the information.
Right.
Or where things are constantly changing.
Totally. Like when you're traveling and you don't have a strict itinerary, you just see where the day takes you.
Exactly.
But as you said, it can be risky if you need a solid plan.
Right.
Speaking of risk, what about jumping on the bandwagon?
Okay.
I feel like that one can be either positive or negative,
right,
depending on the context.
It definitely has two sides to it.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it speaks to our social nature, our desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
But it can also lead to herd mentality.
Oh, for sure.
Where people blindly follow trends without thinking critically.
That's so true. It's like, just because everyone else is doing something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Sometimes you need to step back and ask yourself, am I doing this because I genuinely believe in it?
Right.
Or am I just following the crowd?
Exactly. Critical thinking is key.
Yeah.
And speaking of questioning things,
yes,
how about barking up the wrong tree?
Okay.
I think we've all been there at some point, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. Like I can think of a few embarrassing situations where I was completely off track, like blaming the wrong person or focusing on the wrong problem.
It's a good reminder to check our assumptions to make sure we're focusing our energy in the right direction.
Right.
Sometimes we need to step back, reassess the situation, and maybe even ask for help to get a fresh perspective.
Right. Because sometimes you're so focused on your own viewpoint that you miss the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk about conversations and relationships.
Okay.
Idioms play a huge role in how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to those subtle nuances that are hard to express directly.
You're absolutely right. These idioms offer fascinating insights into the dynamics of human interaction.
Yeah.
From casual conversations to deep, meaningful connections.
Like a penny for your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a simple phrase.
Right.
But it shows genuine interest in what the other person is thinking or feeling. It's like an invitation to open up and share.
It's a gentle way to encourage communication without being too intrusive. It creates a space for the other person to express themselves freely.
And then there's keep an eye on.
Yes.
It's not just about watching something literally, right?
Right.
It's also about being attentive.
Yeah.
Caring.
Yeah.
Looking out for someone.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of responsibility and concern. It can be used in a variety of contexts. From simply keeping an eye on a pot on the stove to looking after a friend who's going through a difficult time.
And all in the same boat. That one's a personal favorite.
Oh.
I think it's so powerful to remember that we're not alone in our struggles.
It fosters a sense of solidarity, of shared experience. It reminds us that we're all connected, facing similar challenges and triumphs.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly comforting, especially during tough times.
It really can. It's like that feeling of knowing you're not the only one who feels a certain way or has gone through a certain experience. It's a powerful reminder that we're all human.
Yes.
And we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And sometimes in those shared experiences, we need to let go of past hurts or disagreements.
Right.
That's where an idiom like water under the bridge comes in.
Oh, that's a good one. It's like saying, hey, we've moved on. Let's not dwell on old drama.
Exactly. It's all about forgiveness, reconciliation, and recognizing that holding on to grudges only weighs us down.
Exactly. It's about choosing to focus on the present and the future rather than being bogged down by past conflicts.
And sometimes that means starting fresh.
Right.
Wiping the slate clean is a powerful image of new beginnings.
It really is. It's like hitting the reset button on a relationship or a situation, giving everyone involved a chance to move forward without the baggage of the past.
And that can be incredibly liberating, both for individuals and for relationships.
Right.
It allows for growth, healing, and the possibility of building something stronger and more positive.
You know, talking about all these idioms has made me realize just how much they reflect our values and beliefs as a culture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've got idioms about hard work, resilience, second chances, and the importance of connection. It's pretty fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Language is such a powerful tool for understanding ourselves and the world around us. And idioms, with their colorful imagery and their historical roots, offer a unique window into the human experience.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired to use all these idioms in my everyday conversations.
Yes.
But first, I think it's time to call it a night. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. It's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of advanced English idioms.
It's like even the idioms we use to talk about relaxing and winding down it reveals something about our culture.
That's so true. Like even our leisure time is influenced by those values and beliefs that we hold.
Like time flies when you're having fun. It's such a simple statement, but it speaks volumes about how we perceive time and enjoyment.
It really does.
It's like when you're completely absorbed in something that you love, you just lose track of everything else.
Yeah, you're just in the moment. Completely present. It highlights the importance of finding those activities that bring us joy and make us feel truly present. And it suggests that those moments of genuine engagement are precious and fleeting, which makes them all the more special.
And then there's get your act together. I feel like that one's been a constant refrain in my life, especially from my parents when I was younger.
It's a call to action, isn't it?
Yeah.
A reminder to take responsibility for our choices and our behaviors. It can be a gentle nudge, or it can be a stern warning, depending on the context. But it always emphasizes the importance of self-improvement and striving to be our best selves.
It's funny how those childhood sayings stick with us, isn't it?
It really is.
But, you know, even though it might have sounded annoying at the time, there's definitely some wisdom in that idiom.
Oh, yeah.
We all need those moments to step back and reassess to make sure we're on the right track.
Absolutely. It's about taking ownership of our lives, setting goals, and making those conscious choices that align with our values.
Wow, we've covered so much ground today.
I know, right?
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of idioms.
It's been a fascinating journey, exploring the nuances of language and how it reflects our shared human experience.
Okay, my favorite has to be spill beans.
Oh, yeah.
It's so playful and visual, and it always makes me smile.
Yeah.
But I also love All in the Same Boat because it reminds me that we're not alone in our struggles and our triumphs.
Exactly.
What about you? Which idioms resonated most with you?
I'm drawn to a blessing in disguise. It's a reminder that even difficult experiences can have a positive impact on our lives. It encourages us to look for the silver lining, even when things feel challenging.
That's a great one. It's all about perspective, isn't it?
It is.
And finding meaning, even in the midst of adversity.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful message to carry with us.
So to all you listeners out there, I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of advanced English idioms. We've only scratched the surface. But hopefully you've gained some new insights and maybe even a few phrases to add to your conversational repertoire.
Remember, language is a living, breathing thing, constantly evolving and adapting. Embrace the richness and complexity of idioms, and don't be afraid to experiment with them in your own conversations.
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes!
After all, as we learned today, time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy idioming. Welcome to your deep dive on English idioms.
Oh, very cool.
Today, we're going beyond simple definitions. We're going to help you really understand and use 33 of the most common ones.
All right.
Think of it as a fluency upgrade.
Yeah.
Adding that natural expressive touch to your English.
It's fascinating how idioms work. They pack so much meaning into just a few words reflecting shared cultural experiences. And adding that touch of personality to language.
Exactly. And to make this deep dive even more digestible, we've grouped them into themes.
Ooh, nice.
We're kicking things off with idioms related to mornings and daily routines.
All right.
I'm curious, do you have any favorites in this category?
Well, rise and shine is a classic, of course. It's more than just waking up.
Right.
It's about approaching the day with energy and enthusiasm. It's that feeling of, all right, let's do this.
I love that it sets the tone for a productive day. Now, speaking of productivity, hit the ground running is another great one. It's not just about starting early. It's about starting with momentum, diving right into the task at hand.
Right.
Have you ever noticed how this idiom is often used to describe someone new in a job or role?
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of making a strong first impression and showing initiative.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how some idioms like burning the midnight oil have a bit of a double-edged sword to them.
Right.
It implies dedication and hard work, but also touches upon the idea of perhaps pushing ourselves a bit too hard.
Right. Burning the midnight oil speaks to those late-night work sessions, the scramble to meet deadlines. There's a sense of urgency, but also a hint of maybe I should have managed my time better. It definitely reflects the reality of many work environments.
It does. And then there's a fresh pair of eyes, which I think highlights the value of collaboration and outside perspectives.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so close to a project or problem that we lose sight of the bigger picture.
It's like being stuck in a rut, unable to see new solutions or possibilities. A fresh perspective can be incredibly helpful in those situations. It's like saying, okay, let's step back and see this from a different angle. And speaking of perspective, the early bird catches the worm is a timeless reminder about the importance of being proactive.
It's about seizing opportunities and taking initiative, not waiting for things to come to you. What's fascinating is how these seemingly simple phrases about mornings and routines actually offer deeper insights into work ethic, problem solving, and even mindset.
Absolutely. They're not just about literal actions. They're about how we approach challenges and opportunities. It's almost like they offer a little glimpse into the values and beliefs embedded in a culture.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and head into the world of work and business.
Okay.
This is where things get interesting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. There are so many idioms that reflect the dynamics of the workplace.
Right.
Get down to business is a great example. It's that call to action to focus and be productive.
It's like saying, okay, enough chit-chat, let's get things done. And in the business world, bringing something to the table is essential.
Right.
It highlights the importance of contributing value, whether it's skills, knowledge, or unique perspective.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating your worth and showing that you're a valuable asset to the team. But sometimes, even with the best intentions, we have to put things on the back burner.
That's the reality of prioritization, right? Sometimes we have to delay certain tasks or projects to focus on more urgent matters. It's like acknowledging that we can't do everything at once, and that's okay. But I imagine it can be frustrating when, despite our best efforts, we end up back to square one.
Oh, absolutely. It signifies that feeling of having to start over often after setbacks or unforeseen challenges. It can be a blow to our ego and motivation.
Right.
But it's also an opportunity to reassess our approach and come up with new strategies.
Right. It's like saying, okay, this didn't work, so let's rethink our approach and try something different. And sometimes that something different requires us to think outside the box.
That's where creativity and innovation come into play. It's about breaking free from conventional thinking and exploring new possibilities, challenging the status quo and coming up with unconventional solutions.
It's like saying, let's not be limited by the way things have always been done. Let's push boundaries and see what we can come up with. It's fascinating how these work and business idioms reflect the need for both focus and flexibility. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. They highlight the importance of being able to adapt, to prioritize, and to constantly seek new solutions. Now, I don't know about you, but all this talk about work is making me hungry. How about we move on to some food-related idioms?
Perfect timing. I was just thinking the same thing. Sometimes we get a little too ambitious and bite off more than we can chew.
That's a relatable one. It's about taking on too much, overcommitting ourselves, and then struggling to keep up. Yeah. It can apply to work relationships, even our personal goals.
It's like saying, I thought I could handle all of this, but now I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then there are things that are just not our cup of tea.
It's a polite way of saying we don't enjoy something. It acknowledges personal preferences without being dismissive or judgmental.
Right. It's like saying, I respect your taste, but this just isn't for me. It's a gentle way to navigate those differences in taste and preferences. But no matter what our preferences are, it's important to remember not to cry over spilled milk.
It's a reminder that dwelling on past mistakes or things we can't change is unproductive. It's about accepting what's happened and moving forward.
It's like saying, okay, that was a bummer, but I can't change it. Now let's focus on what I can do going forward. However, sometimes those spilled milk moments land us in hot water.
That's when we're facing consequences, often due to our own actions or mistakes. It implies a sense of trouble or difficulty.
It's like saying, I messed up and now I'm dealing with the fallout in those situations. It's probably best not to spill the beans and make things worse.
Right. Spilling the beans is about revealing secrets, often unintentionally. It can lead to embarrassment or complications, especially if the information was sensitive or confidential.
It's like saying, oops, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Yeah.
You know? I find it fascinating how these food-related idioms can be so vivid and relatable, even if we haven't literally experienced those situations.
It's the power of imagery and shared cultural understanding. They tap into those universal experiences of overcommitting, having preferences, making mistakes, and facing consequences.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to our next course of idioms. Let's dive into the world of emotions and reactions. What do you think? Are you ready to explore this fascinating realm of language?
Absolutely. Emotions and reactions. This is where idioms truly shine, expressing complex feelings in a way that resonates across cultures.
It's like they provide a shortcut to understanding those nuanced emotions we all experience now when someone expresses an idea perfectly. We might say they hit the nail on the head.
Precisely, it's about accuracy, getting something exactly right. It's like that satisfying feeling when a puzzle piece clicks into place.
And speaking of things falling into place, sometimes what seems like a negative event turns out to be a blessing in disguise.
That's about finding the silver lining, the unexpected positive outcome.
Right.
It reminds us that things don't always go as planned, but sometimes those unexpected detours lead us to something better.
It's like saying, okay, this wasn't what I expected, but maybe it's working out for the best. But let's face it, some situations present us with a hard pill to swallow.
Ah, yes. Those difficult truths or realities that are tough to accept. It's that moment when we have to confront something unpleasant.
Right.
Or acknowledge a mistake.
It's like saying, this is hard to hear, but I need to accept it. And sometimes that acceptance comes with a side of nervousness or hesitation, those cold feet moments.
Those feelings are so relatable. It's that feeling of doubt or anxiety before a big event or decision. We've all been there, haven't we?
Absolutely. It's like that internal battle between excitement and fear. But in those moments of uncertainty, it's important to remember to keep your chin up.
That's about staying positive and resilient in the face of challenges. It's a reminder to focus on what we can control and to keep moving forward.
It's like saying, this is tough, but I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
You know what I find fascinating about these emotion-related idioms is how they capture those universal human experiences we all go through.
Exactly. They provide a shared language for expressing those ups and downs of life, those moments of joy, disappointment, hesitation, and resilience.
Okay, I'm feeling energized and ready to take action. Let's move on to those idioms that focus on action and decision-making. What do you think ready to delve into this next category?
Ready when you are. Let's explore those phrases that capture the essence of initiative, choice, and commitment. And speaking of commitment, going the extra mile is a great place to start.
It's about exceeding expectations, putting in that extra effort to achieve something truly remarkable. It's that willingness to go above and beyond what's required.
Exactly. It's like saying, I'm not just going to meet the bare minimum, I'm going to strive for excellence. And then there's the phenomenon of jumping on the bandwagon, which reflects how trends and ideas spread.
It's about joining a popular movement or trend, often with a sense of enthusiasm and excitement.
Right. It's like saying, this seems interesting, count me in. But sometimes the big approach is to play it by ear.
That's about being flexible, adapting to circumstances as they unfold. It's about embracing spontaneity and being open to change.
It's like saying, let's see what happens and make decisions as we go. But even with the best intentions, sometimes we have to acknowledge when it's time to throw in the towel.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But it's about recognizing when to stop pursuing something that's not working. It's about accepting defeat and moving on.
It's like saying, I've given it my best shot, but it's time to let go. And then there are those situations where the ball is in your court.
That's about passing the responsibility for decision-making to someone else. It's about acknowledging their agency and waiting for their response.
It's like saying, okay, I've done my part, now it's your turn to make a move. You know, I think these action and decision-making idioms are so valuable because they provide a framework for navigating those pivotal moments in life.
They do. They help us understand the dynamics of commitment, flexibility, surrender, and responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think they can make us feel more confident and articulate when facing those moments of choice.
Absolutely. They give us the language to express our intentions, to navigate uncertainty, and to respond to changing circumstances. Now, how about we shift our focus to those idioms that help us understand the complexities of conversations and relationships, ready to delve into the realm of social dynamics?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. I love how idioms can help us decipher those subtle cues and unspoken rules of social interaction. And what better way to start than with a penny for your thoughts?
It's a gentle invitation to share what's on your mind, showing genuine interest in the other person's perspective. It's like saying, I'm curious about what you're thinking. And then there are those situations where the ball is in your court.
That's about passing the responsibility for decision-making to someone else. It's about acknowledging their agency and waiting for their response.
It's like saying, okay, I've done my part now, it's your turn to make a move. You know, I think these action and decision-making idioms are so valuable because they provide a framework for navigating those pivotal moments in life.
They do. They help us understand the dynamics of commitment, flexibility, surrender, and responsibility. And I think they can make us feel more confident and articulate when facing those moments of choice.
Absolutely. They give us the language to express our intentions, to navigate uncertainty, and to respond to changing circumstances. All right. How about we shift our focus to those idioms that help us understand the complexities of conversations and relationships, ready to delve into the realm of social dynamics?
Absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. I love how idioms can help us decipher those subtle cues and unspoken rules of social interaction. And what better way to start than with a penny for your thoughts?
It's a gentle invitation to share what's on your mind, showing genuine interest in the other person's perspective. It's like saying, I'm curious about what you're thinking.
And sometimes it's necessary to keep an eye on something or someone, especially if there's a sense of concern or potential risk.
It's about being observant, paying attention to details and potential changes that can apply to situations or relationships, even our own goals and aspirations.
Right. It's like saying, let's stay vigilant and aware of what's happening. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, we find ourselves barking up the wrong tree.
That's about being mistaken pursuing a line of thought or action that leads to a dead end. It's about realizing we've made a wrong assumption or misjudged a situation.
It's like saying, oops, I was wrong about that. But even when we make mistakes, it's comforting to know that we're all in the same boat.
That's about shared experiences facing similar challenges or circumstances. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
It's like saying we're in this together, and sometimes it's necessary to acknowledge that past conflicts or issues are water under the bridge.
That's about letting go of past grievances, choosing to move forward without holding on to resentment or anger.
It's like saying, that was then, this is now. It's about forgiveness and reconciliation. You know, I find these conversation and relationship idioms to be incredibly helpful in navigating those sometimes tricky waters of social interaction.
Me too. They provide insights into social dynamics, helping us understand how to express interest, show concern, navigate disagreements, and ultimately build stronger connections with others.
All right, as our metaphorical day winds down, let's explore some idioms related to evenings and relaxation. What have we got?
Ah, yes. Those phrases that capture the essence of winding down and finding respite, call it a night, is a perfect example. It signifies the decision to end an activity and rest.
It's like saying, okay, I'm done for today, time to recharge. And sometimes before we rest, we need to wipe the slate clean. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
That's about starting fresh, forgiving ourselves or others for past mistakes and embracing new beginnings. It's that feeling of letting go of burdens and stepping into a new day with a renewed sense of hope.
It's like saying, okay, let's forget about what happened and start over. But of course, before we start over, we have to acknowledge those moments when time flies, when you're having fun.
That captures that feeling of being so engrossed in something enjoyable that we lose track of time. It's a reminder to savor those moments of joy and to embrace activities that make us feel fully alive.
It's like saying, wow, I can't believe how quickly the time has passed. It often happens when we're engaged in something we love, whether it's spending time with loved ones pursuing a hobby or simply being present in the moment.
It does. It's a reminder to cherish those moments and to prioritize activities that bring us joy and fulfillment.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this section. What do you think? Are you ready for our final round of idioms?
Ready and excited. It's amazing how much ground we've covered exploring the nuances of these everyday expressions.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our final act, let's delve into those idioms that help us talk about time and change. What do you have in store for us?
Well, let's start with a phrase that evokes a sense of nostalgia. That was a lifetime ago. It emphasizes how distant a past event feels as if it belongs to a different era.
It's like saying, wow, so much has happened since then. It feels like a completely different life. It really captures that feeling of time slipping away and how experiences shape our perception of the past.
It does, and sometimes we encounter situations where everything seems to shift dramatically, like it's a whole new ball game.
That's a great one for describing those major life changes that require us to adapt and learn new rules, whether it's a new job, a new relationship, or even a new phase of life. It's like saying, everything's different now. I need a new approach.
Exactly. But even when things change drastically, it's important to keep your eye on the prize, to stay focused on our goals despite the inevitable challenges and distractions that come our way.
It's about maintaining that sense of purpose and motivation, reminding ourselves why we started this journey in the first place. It's like saying, I won't let setbacks deter me. I'm going to achieve what I set out to do. It's a powerful reminder to stay resilient and committed, wouldn't you say?
I agree. And sometimes when we're striving towards those big goals, we need to remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. It's a call for patience and persistence, acknowledging that meaningful progress takes time and effort.
It's like saying it's okay if things don't happen overnight. I'm in this for the long haul. It's about trusting the process and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Right.
And speaking of time, there's a timeless truth in the saying, time heals all wounds.
That speaks to the restorative power of time, its ability to soften the sharp edges of pain and heartache. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, things will eventually get better.
It's like saying this hurts now, but I know that with time, the pain will ease. It's a message of hope and resilience.
It is. And looking back on all the idioms we've explored today, I'm struck by how much they reveal about the human experience. They capture our joys and sorrows, our triumphs and setbacks, our hopes and fears.
They provide this incredible insight into how we perceive the world, how we relate to each other, and how we navigate the complexities of life. It's like each idiom is a tiny window into the human heart, revealing our shared vulnerabilities and our enduring strength.
What's fascinating is how these phrases, often passed down through generations, continue to resonate with us today. They connect us to our shared cultural heritage and remind us that we're not alone in our experiences.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage our listener to keep exploring the world of idioms. Don't be afraid to use them in your conversations, to experiment, and to have fun with language.
Embrace the challenge, and you'll be amazed at how much richer your communication becomes. It's like adding vibrant colors to a painting, bringing depth and texture to your expression.
And remember, language learning is an ongoing journey. There's always something new to discover, some hidden gem waiting to be unearthed. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations flowing.
Until next time, happy language learning.
So diving into idioms, it's like, I think these are actually kind of a secret weapon for sounding really fluent in English. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not just about knowing the words. It's about really using them the way native speakers do.
Exactly. So how about we unpack some of those quirky phrases, those idioms, and really get into how to actually use them in conversations.
Sounds good. And you know what I think is so cool about idioms is that they often have this vivid picture that goes way beyond just the words themselves.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Imagine someone says, break a leg before you go on stage or give a big presentation.
Oh man, that's a good one.
Yeah, right.
You'd think they were wishing you harm.
Exactly.
But it actually means good luck.
It does. And it's thought to have come from this old theater superstition where, directly wishing someone good luck would actually give them bad luck.
Oh, wow.
So break a leg was this reverse psychology thing.
That is so interesting. It's kind of like, when people say knock on wood, to ward off bad vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of superstitions, have you ever heard the phrase once in a blue moon?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I even use it myself sometimes. But to be honest, I never really thought about what a blue moon actually is.
Well, it doesn't really mean that the moon actually turns blue. It's just a fun way of saying that something happens super rarely. I only eat junk food once in a blue moon.
Right. It just adds a little color to your English.
It does.
I love that. It's those idioms make language so much more expressive and interesting, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, imagine you're at a party, right? And you accidentally spill this huge secret.
Oh.
In English, we'd say you let the cat out of the bag.
Ooh, I like that one. I could just picture it. That secret's a cat, and it's bursting out of a bag that you were supposed to keep closed.
Exactly, yeah. And it often happens, totally by accident, which kind of makes it even funnier.
Totally. But is there a different idiom we use if someone reveals a secret on purpose.
Oh, yeah, totally. We'd say they spill the beans. Like they're deliberately giving away information, maybe even gossiping a little.
Oh, so it's all about intention. Letting the cat out of the bag is an accident, and spilling the beans is like on purpose. Okay, I'm starting to see the nuances here.
Exactly. And that's what makes mastering idioms so rewarding. You're not just learning like vocabulary lists. You're learning how native speakers actually express themselves.
That's a good point. Speaking of beans, I've been meaning to ask you about this one. What does it mean to spill the tea? I hear that one all the time these days.
Oh, that is such a good example of how idioms, can change over time. Spilling the tea is, well, it's more of a slang term, really. It means gossiping or sharing, like, juicy information. But it has this, like, extra layer of excitement or drama to it.
So it's like a modern-day version of spilling the beans.
Exactly. Language never sits still. It's always evolving. And idioms reflect that. So, you got to stay on top of the trends to keep your English sounding, well, fresh and natural.
I'm already feeling so much more confident, honestly. This deep dive is giving me the tools to, not just understand these idioms, but actually use them myself.
That's fantastic. And remember, learning idioms should be fun. Don't be afraid to play around with them and experiment.
I'm ready for more. Let's keep exploring.
Okay, let's do it. As you kind of level up in your English learning journey, you'll start seeing these idioms that are a bit more nuanced, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like they might show up in some pretty specific situations, like maybe at work or, out with friends.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So are there any idioms that I could use to impress my boss during a meeting? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So let's say you're starting a brand new project and you really want to show your boss that you're ready to jump right in and get things done. You could say something like, I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Okay. I like that one. I could totally see myself using that.
Right. It just sounds so much better than just saying, I'm ready to work hard.
Totally. It's way more dynamic,
Yeah.
You're not just willing to work, but you're already in motion and full of energy and ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So what about if I need to describe a situation where someone took on way too much, they're in over their head?
Oh, there's a perfect idiom for that. You could say they bit off more than they can chew.
Uh-huh. Oh, I love that one. It's so visual too,
Right.
You can really picture someone trying to take this huge bite and then realizing oh no, I can't actually handle this.
Yeah, exactly. And we've all been there, right? Taking on too many tasks or commitments and then realizing, whoops, maybe I should have said no to a few of those.
Totally been there.
And sometimes, you have to step back and kind of prioritize what's really important.
For sure.
And that's where the idiom put something on the back burner comes in.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. It's saying, okay, this is important, but it can wait for now.
Exactly, yeah. You're not saying it's not important, just that it's not the top priority right this second.
Right. Okay, so that's super useful in a work context for sure.
Totally. And sometimes, you just need a fresh perspective on something. So you might ask for a fresh pair of eyes on a project.
Oh yeah, that's a great one too. I've definitely been in situations where I'm too close to a problem and I need someone else to take a look and give me their opinion.
Exactly. It's you're stuck in your own head and you need someone to come in with a different point of view.
Totally. It's amazing how these idioms can capture those tricky work situations so perfectly.
Right. Okay, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about some social situations.
Okay, cool.
So imagine you're hanging out with friends and someone suggests doing something that you're really not into. Maybe they want to go bungee jumping, but you're terrified of heights.
Oh no.
You could politely decline by saying, it's not my cup of tea.
Okay, I like that one. That's a good way to say no without being rude or, making a big deal out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about keeping things light and avoiding any awkwardness.
Yeah, because you don't want to be no way, that's crazy.
Exactly.
Okay. So idioms are all about expressing yourself.
Yeah. Oh.
But in a way that takes the social situation into account.
Exactly. Yeah. They can help you navigate those subtle social dynamics.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So speaking of awkward situations, have you ever made a mistake and just wanted to pretend it never happened?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Well, in those moments, you might say, don't cry over spilled milk.
Oh, okay. So it's a reminder that dwelling on past mistakes doesn't really help anything.
Right. It's better to just learn from the experience and move on.
Totally. That's such good advice. And not just for language learning either.
Exactly. It applies to pretty much every area of life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so speaking of life lessons, did you ever hear that saying, the early bird gets the worm?
Oh, of course. It's a classic.
My grandma used to say that all the time. It's all about being proactive and like seizing opportunities, right?
Exactly. It's like that whole idea of, the early bird gets the worm. So if you want to succeed, you got to be willing to get up early and put in the effort.
Yeah, make things happen.
Exactly. Okay, so on that note, I think we should get down to business and move on to some advanced idioms.
Ooh, okay, I'm ready. Bring on the challenge. Okay, hit me with those advanced level idioms. I'm feeling pretty good after those beginner and intermediate ones. Like, what kind of super cool phrases are we getting into now?
Well, think about this. You're in a meeting, right? And you want to make sure everyone is really, thinking critically about an idea.
Mm-hmm.
You could say something like, let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Ooh, yeah, I definitely heard that one before. But honestly, I never really knew exactly how to use it myself.
Right.
So it's like you're intentionally taking the opposite stance, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of, spark some debate and make sure everyone is really thinking things through.
Exactly. It's like you're testing the strength of an argument. And also making sure you're not just going along with the crowd.
Right. It shows you're really thinking deeply and considering all the angles.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. It's definitely a good way to, make sure everyone's paying attention. Okay, here's one I've definitely experienced, but I never knew the idiom for it. You know when there's a big, obvious problem, but everyone is trying to just ignore it.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the elephant in the room.
Yes, that's it.
It's that issue that's so glaringly obvious, but for some reason, nobody wants to address it.
Right. Like everyone's just tiptoeing around, pretending it's not there. It could be anything, really.
Yeah, a looming deadline, a conflict between people, anything.
It's so true. But acknowledging it out loud, using that idiom, that can actually be a good way to break the tension.
Totally. Sometimes just naming it, saying, okay, there's an elephant in the room here, can be the first step to actually dealing with the problem.
I like that. It shows you're not afraid to face the issue head on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got playing devil's advocate and naming the elephant. Those are some pretty good tools for navigating tricky conversations. Any other advanced idioms I should have in my back pocket?
Well, let's talk about skepticism. In this day and age, we're just bombarded with information all the time.
Right. From every direction.
It's so important to, be a little discerning. Don't just believe everything you hear at face value.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the idiom, take it with a grain of salt, comes in.
Okay, I've definitely heard that one before.
Yep.
But I'll be honest, I always thought it had something to do with actual salt.
Haha, right. Literally taking a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But no, it actually means to approach information with a little bit of healthy skepticism. Don't just accept everything blindly. Do your research, think about who's saying it, form your own conclusions.
That is such a valuable skill these days with all the news and opinions flying around online. Knowing that idiom gives me a way to express that skepticism in a conversation.
Totally. And, sometimes people just try to avoid dealing with problems completely. They just keep pushing things off, hoping they'll magically disappear.
Oh, I know people like that. Always kicking the can down the road.
That's the one. It's the perfect way to describe procrastination or avoiding responsibility. But those problems rarely solve themselves.
So true. It's better to just face the challenge rather than letting it get bigger and bigger.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about idioms for all kinds of situations, from expressing good luck to dealing with tricky conversations and difficult problems.
I feel like I could walk into any conversation now and just nail it.
That's great.
These idioms are more than just words. They're tools to really understand and express those subtle parts of English.
Absolutely. And the best part is, this is just the beginning. There are so many more idioms out there waiting to be discovered.
I'm ready for the challenge.
Keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, have fun with it.
That's the best advice. Thanks so much for taking me on this deep dive into the world of idioms. It's been so much fun.
My pleasure. It's been great chatting with you. And remember, language is constantly evolving, so keep your ears open for new and interesting idioms. You never know what you might find.